All right, everybody, welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one.
Today we're looking at Hotel Transylvania Transformania, and you said you are a big fan of the franchise.
Huge fan. Yeah. I mean, who doesn't love those first couple? They're so much fun.
They're great. But you mentioned that this last one, Transformania, didn't really hit the mark for you, so we're going to take a deep dive into this film and see if we can figure out why.
Let's do it.
So, for viewers who haven't had a chance to check out the film yet, can you give us just a quick recap of what Transformania is all about?
So Transformania is the fourth installment,
Mm.
the grand finale, they're calling it, of the Hotel Transylvania franchise.
Ooh, big shoes to fill.
Right. And it's been a pretty popular franchise, so a lot riding on this last one.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
So what's going on? How does it all start?
Well, it starts off with a big anniversary bash. Hotel Transylvania's 125th anniversary.
Wow, a long time.
Quite a long time.
Yeah.
Well, so Dracula, he's ready to retire. He wants to hand over the hotel to his daughter Mavis, and of course her hubby Johnny.
So far, so good?
Yeah, we think so.
Mm.
But Dracula being Dracula, he's got some reservations.
Classic Dracula. What kind of reservations could he have?
He is totally on board with Mavis taking over naturally. She's his daughter. But the thought of Johnny running the hotel, that's a different story.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, we love him, but he's not exactly hotel management material.
Exactly. He means well, but he's a little rough around the edges, let's just say. So instead of, just being upfront about his concerns, what does Dracula do? He invents this crazy monster real estate law claiming that Johnny can't inherit the hotel because he's human.
Oh, come on. Of course he does.
Right? It's completely ridiculous. And, Johnny being Johnny, he's not going to just let that slide.
No way, not John.
He's determined to prove Dracula wrong and maybe impress him a little along the way. So he stumbles upon this invention called a monstrification ray.
Oh, boy, here we go. A monstrification ray. This is where things get interesting, I bet.
Yeah. You can't have a Hotel Transylvania movie without some wacky invention, that's for sure.
Exactly. So what happens? Johnny turns himself into a monster.
That's the plan. He figures if he can become a monster, then hey, he can inherit the hotel, problem solved.
But knowing this franchise, I'm guessing things don't exactly go according to plan.
You guessed it. Things go hilariously awry.
So tell me what happens. Does Johnny become a monster?
He does. But there's a twist. Dracula ends up becoming human.
What? Really?
Yeah, it's a whole body swap situation.
Oh, no. So now we've got a human Dracula and a monster Johnny. This sounds pretty chaotic.
It's complete chaos. The hotel's thrown into disarray, and they've got to figure out a way to reverse the transformations before they become permanent.
Hold on a second. This whole monstrification thing, the quest to reverse it all, doesn't this sound a little familiar?
What do you mean?
Well, it's a lot like the first Hotel Transylvania movie, right? Dracula learning to accept Johnny for who he is.
You're right. It's kind of like they're retreading familiar ground.
It's a little too familiar, don't you think? Yeah, it almost feels like they took the easy way out instead of really pushing the envelope with this one.
I see what you mean. It's like they had this golden opportunity to explore these characters in a whole new light, literally. But instead they kind of just stuck with the same old.
Exactly. And it's a shame because there was so much potential. I mean, imagine Dracula trying to navigate the world as a human, dealing with things like sunburn and traffic jams.
Right. Or picture Johnny with all these monstrous urges trying to control his inner beast. That could have been hilarious and insightful.
Absolutely. It's like they had all these ingredients for something special, but they just didn't quite know what recipe to follow.
A little bit. And what about Mavis?
Oh, don't even get me started on Mavis. Remember how awesome she was in the second movie?
Totally. She really came into her own as a mom and a leader.
Right. She was fierce. But in this one, it's like she got lost in the shuffle. She had a few good moments, but overall, it felt like she was just kind of there.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Her character deserved more attention, more development, especially given the whole family dynamic of the film.
Definitely. And don't even get me started on the rest of the game.
What do you mean?
Frank Wayne Griffin Murray. They're like the heart and soul of these movies.
Oh, I totally agree. They bring so much life and humor to the franchise.
Right. But in this one, it felt like they were just kind of pushed to the sidelines. They had a few funny lines here and there, but nothing memorable.
It's funny you should mention that. I was thinking the same thing. It's like the writers didn't know what to do with them once Dracula and Johnny got switched up.
Exactly. They had so much potential for some really funny subplots. Imagine Frank trying to blend in with a bunch of bodybuilders at the gym, or Griffin stuck in a crowded elevator.
Oh my gosh, the possibilities are endless. They could have had a field day with those characters.
Right. Instead, it's just kind of a missed opportunity. But, we can't talk about Hotel Transylvania without talking about the animation, because that's one thing this franchise always nails.
Oh, absolutely. The animation in Transformania is top-notch, especially those transformation sequences. They're so creative and visually stunning.
For sure. They really went all out with the visuals. It's like a cartoon come to life. But I have to ask,
What's that?
how did the humor in this one stack up to the previous films? Did it still have that signature Hotel Transylvania wit?
Well, that's the thing. The humor is there, but it feels a bit different this time around.
Different how?
It's more reliant on physical comedy and slapstick than clever dialogue and witty banter.
So less talking, more falling down and bumping into things.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It's funny,
Yeah.
but it lacks that sharp wit that made the earlier films so quotable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like they traded in the witty banter for a whoopee cushion.
Exactly. And look, I'm not saying slapstick can't be funny. But when it comes to Hotel Transylvania, the humor always worked best when it felt smart and subversive.
Totally. Remember those hilarious moments in the earlier films that caught you off guard?
Yeah.
That kind of clever writing was what made those movies so rewatchable.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. It's like comparing a gourmet meal to a bag of chips. Sure, the chips are satisfying in the moment, but the meal leaves a lasting impression.
Such a good analogy. And I think that's kind of how I feel about Transformania as a whole. It's like they were so focused on going big with the animation and the over-the-top antics that they forgot about the heart and soul of what made this franchise so special.
Right. And that's a real shame because beneath all the CGI and slapstick, there's a missed opportunity to explore some really interesting themes about family legacy and what it truly means to accept someone for who they are.
I couldn't agree more. It's like saying goodbye to a friend, but realizing you don't really recognize them anymore. It leaves you feeling kind of empty inside. So I guess the big question is, will this be how we remember the Hotel Transylvania franchise?
It's hard to say. I mean, those first few movies, they hold a special place in a lot of people's hearts, including mine.
Mine too. They were just so clever and fun and heartfelt. And I think that's the legacy I'd like to see endure. Well said. Well, folks, it looks like we've reached the end of our stay here at Hotel Transylvania Transformania. We hope you enjoyed checking out this deep dive with us. And remember, just because a movie doesn't quite live up to our expectations doesn't mean it can't spark some interesting conversations.
That's right. Sometimes the most disappointing experiences can lead to the most insightful discussions.
Exactly. So until next time, keep those brains buzzing, and remember, it's always more fun to deep dive together.
See ya.